This is the Release and Realization podcast, where we explore emotional freedom and practical manifestation based on the teachings of Lester Levinson and Neville Goddard to help you unlock your inner power and create the life you want. Welcome. In today's episode, David and Anna talk about the state of consciousness that creates reality and how it shapes every experience.
Welcome. Come on in, get comfortable, and get ready.
Yeah, definitely get ready for this one.
Because today we are taking a massive, deeply fascinating detour from the usual way we think about navigating life.
A completely different direction.
Totally. And if you are listening to this right now, I already know a few things about you. You are a learner. You are deeply curious.
You're someone who puts in the work.
Exactly. You are someone who probably spends a good amount of time, maybe an exhausting amount of time, trying to optimize your life.
Oh, the endless optimization trap.
Right. You're gathering information, analyzing data, reading the books, listening to the experts. You're trying to figure out the absolute best way to do things in order to shape your reality.
Because we live in this golden age of the how-to.
Yes, the how-tos. How to maximize your morning routine, how to biohack your sleep, how to outwork your competition.
It's all about what you can do.
But I want to start our depth dive today with a paradigm-shifting question, one that hit me like a ton of bricks when I was reviewing today's source material.
It's a heavy one.
It really is. What if that constant, relentless human drive to do, to achieve, to fix, and to improve in order to shape reality is actually, well, what if it's entirely backward?
It is a profound question. And to be honest, it is a deeply uncomfortable one for a lot of people to sit with.
Oh, I was uncomfortable.
Right, because it completely upends the traditional models of self-improvement and goal achievement that most of us have been thoroughly conditioned to accept since childhood.
We're totally wired for it.
Culturally and biologically. We believe in cause and effect on a purely physical, action-based level. You want a result, you take an action.
You want a different reality, you do something differently.
Exactly. You exert force upon the world. But the source material we are analyzing today challenges that foundational assumption at its very core. It suggests that our entire approach to moving through the world is fundamentally misaligned with how reality actually operates.
Spot on. And the material we are diving into is incredibly dense, highly philosophical, yet it is simultaneously one of the most deeply practical things I have ever read.
It bridges that gap perfectly.
It does. We're looking at an excerpt titled The State of Consciousness from Which Reality Emerges. And just the title alone gives you a sense of the weight of what we are dealing with.
Notice what it's not called.
Right. It is not called The Actions from Which Reality Emerges.
Or the habits that build reality.
Exactly. It is entirely focused on the state of consciousness.
And that brings us to our core mission for this deep dive. For you, the listener, the goal today is not just to absorb another new piece of information so you can add it to your already overloaded brain.
Please, no more checklists.
Right. We're not here to give you 10 new steps to memorize. Our mission is to fundamentally deconstruct a massive, pervasive misunderstanding about how your reality is actually generated.
We're taking the whole thing apart.
We are going to meticulously dissect the central radical claim of these notes that reality simply does not come from your actions. It comes exclusively from the state of consciousness you currently occupy.
And look, I promise you, we are going to keep this completely conversational.
No heavy academic jargon.
None at all. We're not getting bogged down in inaccessible metaphysical vocabulary. We're here to extract the absolute best aha moments from this text and make them incredibly tangible.
Because it really is an experiential text.
It is. I can assure you that this deep dive is going to be a fascinating, slightly mind-bending exploration of your own mind, your own body, and your own daily experience.
We're going to put these concepts to the test right now.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the opening lines of these notes absolutely stopped me in my tracks.
They're brilliant.
Brilliant in their simplicity, right? But they completely disarm your typical defense mechanisms. The author writes, and I quote, "I would like to invite you into something now, not into a new idea, not into a new understanding, but into the recognition of a state of consciousness."
It's such a deliberate opening.
I literally had to stop and reread it.
Yeah.
It is explicitly telling you, the reader, or in this case you, the listener, to stop doing the very thing you naturally do when you consume content.
It's saying, do not try to intellectualize this.
Right. Do not try to memorize this as a new concept. Just recognize what is already happening.
It's a brilliant rhetorical move, but it's also a vital practical instruction.
How so?
Well, the instinct for someone like our listener a dedicated learner, is to immediately categorize new information. You want to take what we are saying, compare it to what you already know, evaluate its truth, and file it away in a mental folder.
Yes, the mental filing cabinet is always open.
But the text is specifically asking you to suspend that mechanism. It continues by saying, before you try to understand anything, before you attempt to place or interpret anything within yourself, I would simply like you to notice something.
Notice what exactly?
It asks you to notice the sheer fact that as you are listening right now, as your attention becomes present to these words, this is already a state of consciousness.
Already. That word is doing so much heavy lifting right out of the gate.
It absolutely does. The power of that word, already, cannot be overstated here. The notes explicitly state, you do not need to do anything for it. You do not need to achieve it. You do not need to create it.
Yeah.
This state of consciousness is already active.
Wow.
Let's think about why this matters so profoundly. It instantly strips away the anxiety of trying.
It removes the burden of effort.
Exactly. Whenever we encounter new material about shaping reality or self-improvement, the immediate psychological response is tension.
We think, okay, what do I need to learn? What mental gymnastics do I need to perform to get into the right state?
Am I doing this right?
Right. The constant, am I doing this right?
But this framework short-circuits that entire anxiety loop. It insists that you do not need to construct a state. The very act of paying attention right now, in this exact second, is a state.
It is already active.
You cannot not be in a state of consciousness.
I have to admit, as someone who is a habitual learner and chronic overthinker, this was deeply confronting for me.
It's confronting for everyone who likes to be in control.
My default mode is accumulation. I gather facts, I interpret data, I build mental models. I try to understand things so I can use them.
And here comes this material.
Looking me right in the eye, saying, drop the tools. Stop trying to build an understanding. You don't have to work up a sweat to get to some enlightened plateau. You are already standing in the room.
You're already there.
But I have to ask, if I am just supposed to recognize that I am already in a state of consciousness, where does that actually lead? It feels almost entirely passive.
That feeling of passivity is exactly what the action-addicted mind fears most.
Guilty.
But the text doesn't leave you in a void. From that realization of the already active state, it introduces its first major sweeping premise. It states, and from this state of consciousness, your experience is already unfolding.
The constant unfolding. It's not waiting for me to hit a button.
Precisely. This is where the shift really begins to take hold. It moves you from being an active, stressed-out builder of your reality
Someone desperately trying to snap the pieces together day in and day out.
to becoming a witness of a source that is already flowing. You aren't constructing the present moment from scratch through your intense physical and mental effort.
The present moment is simply unfolding out of whatever state of consciousness you happen to be resting in at this very second.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the real friction of this deep dive. Because if the present moment is just unfolding from my state, that directly contradicts almost everything the modern self-help industry tells us.
It's a complete 180.
The notes directly critique the way we usually go about trying to change our lives. They specifically point out that most manifestation and self-development teachings begin with what you are supposed to do.
And isn't that the absolute truth?
It's everywhere. We live in a culture obsessed with the hustle. It's all about 10-step morning routines, writing your goals down 50 times a day,
Visualizing until your brain literally hurts.
taking massive, unrelenting action.
It is the defining characteristic of modern success philosophy. It is highly action-oriented. But the author draws a very hard line in the sand here.
What do they say?
They write, this does not begin there. It begins where you recognize reality does not arise from your actions, but from the state of consciousness you occupy.
That is the definitive thesis statement of this entire work.
Reality does not arise from your actions.
Now, I want to push back on that, or at least voice the skepticism that I know is bubbling up for anyone listening right now.
Go for it. Let's hear the skepticism.
If I want to build a house, I have to pick up a hammer and hit a nail. My action of hitting the nail drives it into the wood. The house doesn't get built because I sit on an empty lot in a state of house building.
Right.
It gets built because of physical cause and effect. So how can this text claim that reality doesn't arise from actions? It feels like it's denying basic physics.
It is a completely valid skepticism.
Yeah.
And it's rooted in the fact that we are constantly observing the physical world, which appears to operate strictly on mechanical cause and effect.
The hammer hits the nail.
The hammer hits the nail. But the framework here is asking you to look one level deeper. beneath the mechanics.
Okay, I'm with you.
It is arguing that the actions you take, the decision to pick up the hammer, the energy you have to swing it, the clarity with which you read the blueprints, those are actually dictated by the state you are in.
The state precedes the action.
Exactly. So obsessing over the physical actions without recognizing the underlying state is like trying to steer a car by grabbing the tires from the outside instead of sitting in the driver's seat and turning the steering wheel.
Oh, that's a great image.
The tires are doing the physical moving, yes, but the steering wheel dictates the direction. The action is a byproduct.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. As I was going through these notes, my brain immediately went to a movie theater analogy.
Let's hear it.
Imagine you are sitting in a theater and you absolutely hate the movie that's playing on the screen.
It's stressful, chaotic.
It's not what you want to be watching at all. The traditional action-oriented approach, the hustle culture approach, is like running up to the front of the theater and furiously scrubbing the physical canvas of the screen.
Sweating, fighting the fabric.
You're trying to wipe away the images. Maybe you're trying to paint new ones over the light with your bare hands. You are exhausting yourself. You are taking massive, sweaty action upon the screen.
But the image doesn't really change.
No. Or if it does, it's just a messy, exhausting blur because the light is still projecting the exact same film from behind you.
That is a brilliant visualization of the action-first paradigm. It perfectly captures the futility and the exhaustion of trying to change reality strictly at the level of physical effects.
Right. So what this text is essentially saying is stop scrubbing the canvas.
Leave the screen alone.
The canvas is just where the projection lands. If you want to change the movie, you have to turn around, walk up the stairs to the projection booth, and change the film reel inside the projector.
And the film reel is your state of consciousness.
Exactly. The screen is your physical reality. You change the state, and the new reality effortlessly, automatically projects onto the screen.
You don't have to fight the canvas anymore.
The action on the screen changes because the source changed.
Let's really examine the psychological impact of that analogy, because it highlights the immense relief of non-action that this philosophy offers.
It really is a relief.
For anyone listening right now who is burnt out from information overload, from the pressure to have the perfect technique, from the sheer exhaustion of trying to force reality to bend to their will through relentless effort, this concept is a massive exhale.
A total exhale.
The realization that reality does not hinge on you performing your daily actions perfectly, but simply on recognizing and occupying a state, it removes a tremendous burden. It shifts your job from controlling the universe to simply tending to the projector.
Tending to the projector. I love that. But here is where the author does something really clever. They don't just leave this as a lofty, floaty, philosophical idea about projectors and consciousness.
Yeah, they ground it immediately.
They ground it in your actual physical experience, which I think is so smart. Because if we are just talking about states of consciousness, it can feel a bit abstract.
Like, how do I know what state I'm even in?
Exactly. But the text brings it right down into the meat and bones of the body.
What's fascinating here is how the text utilizes the body. It does not treat the body as a vehicle for action, which is how we normally view it, but as an instrument of pure observation.
It introduces a specific real-time physical prompt for the reader.
It says, now gently bring your attention to your body. Not to change it, not to relax it, simply to notice.
I want to pause right there and actually ask you, the listener, to do exactly what the notes say, just for a few seconds. Bring your attention to your body right now as you hear my voice. Feel how you are sitting or standing or walking.
Just observe it.
But, and this is the crucial part, the part that completely tripped me up at first, do not try to fix anything. The instruction is explicit. Not to change it, not to relax it, simply to notice.
It is incredibly difficult for us to actually execute that simple instruction, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I immediately failed. The second I read those words, I realized I was slumping over my desk, my jaw was clenched tight, and before I even formulated a conscious thought, I violently threw my shoulders back and took a massive, forced, deep breath to fix myself.
You optimized your physical form?
I couldn't help it. It is so hard to just be without trying to fix it.
And that reaction is perfectly normal. The instruction to observe without altering is profoundly challenging because our deeply ingrained evolutionary instinct is to fix threats or discomfort immediately.
The moment we bring awareness to our physical form, the ego judges it.
My shoulders are tense. I need to drop them.
My posture is slouched. I need to sit up straight.
My breathing is shallow. I need to take deep breaths. We instantly treat the current state of our body as a problem to be solved. We apply the action-first paradigm to our own physiology.
But the author argues that whatever baseline sensation is there, whether it's spaciousness or tension, presence or distraction, openness or anticipation, whatever's happening in your body right now is not a problem.
That reframing is essential to this entire philosophy. It tells us that this baseline physical sensation is not a flaw in your performance. It is not something you are doing wrong.
Rather, the text states very clearly, it is information.
It is information.
That hit me so hard. The notes go on to state, because every bodily sensation is an imprint of a state of consciousness.
An imprint.
That completely changes the game. It turns the human body into a real-time dashboard, like the dashboard on your car.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
If the check engine light comes on or the low tire pressure light flashes, you don't start screaming at the little plastic light bulb on the dashboard.
You don't try to rip the bulb out.
No. The light isn't the problem, it's just the indicator. It's giving you data about the engine. Your body's tension or its spaciousness or that knot in your stomach is just the indicator light of whatever state of consciousness you are currently operating from.
That is a highly accurate way to view it. And viewing somatic sensation purely as information completely changes how you interact with your own stress, anxiety, or even relaxation.
Give me an example of how that looks in practice.
Let's say you feel a sudden, intense tightness in your chest while reading an email. The normal reaction is to panic, to think, I am stressed, I'm doing something wrong, I need to go meditate and force this tension away so I don't manifest something bad.
You fight the feeling.
Exactly, you fight the feeling. But through this new lens, you simply observe it neutrally. You look at the dashboard and say, tightness in the chest. This tension is just an imprint. It is a physical echo of the state of consciousness I am currently occupying.
It creates a profound, healthy detachment.
You are reading the dashboard, gathering data about the film currently in the projector, rather than fighting the machinery.
Okay, so if my body is just a dashboard reflecting my state, what happens to my thoughts? Because my brain never shuts up.
Most brains don't.
I have thousands of thoughts a day, and most self-help tells me that my thoughts are creating my reality. I need to think positive. I need to police my negative thoughts. How does the mind fit into this dashboard analogy?
That is exactly where the text takes us next, and it is a crucial pivot. It takes this concept of the imprint, or the indicator, and applies it directly to our mental and emotional landscape.
Okay.
It introduces an incredibly provocative idea, the thought that appears, the emotion that arises, the physical tone in which you sit or breathe. These are not the source. They are expressions of the state of consciousness.
Meaning your thoughts are not the engine of your reality.
They are the exhaust. They are symptoms.
Wait, my thoughts are the exhaust. They aren't the source. That goes against the entire positive thinking movement of the last 50 years.
It does. And this brings us to a pivotal reference in the notes. The author explicitly brings in the philosophy of Neville Goddard to anchor this exact point.
Neville Goddard.
Now, for listeners who might not be familiar, Neville Goddard was a very prominent mid-20th century mystic and author in the New Thought movement. He essentially pioneered, or at least popularized, this deeply immersive idea that human imagination and state of being create physical reality.
But he was very distinct from the later toxic positivity movements, right?
Completely distinct. The text notes that this is precisely why Goddard spoke relentlessly about states of consciousness, rather than just positive thinking. The author writes that Goddard didn't focus on what you are thinking, but about, quote, from which state it feels natural to think what you are thinking.
Let's really marinate on that phrase. From which state it feels natural to think what you're thinking. The focus on what is natural completely shifts the burden.
It changes the entire focus of mental work.
We spend so much time engaged in what I call thought policing, cognitive behavioral therapy, daily affirmations, snapping a rubber band on our wrist when we have a bad thought.
Constantly monitoring.
We try to aggressively monitor every single thought that crosses our minds, swatting away the fears and desperately trying to artificially generate positive affirmations. I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am successful, even when we feel terrible. It is utterly exhausting.
And according to this framework, it is entirely futile. Breaking down the futility of thought policing is central to understanding this source material.
How so?
If thoughts are merely expressions of an underlying state, then trying to change your thoughts while remaining in the same state of consciousness is impossible. It is like planting an apple seed and then standing over the sapling demanding it grow oranges.
You can paint the apples orange.
You can shout affirmations at the tree, but the root determines the fruit. The text argues that from a specific state, certain thoughts are just natural, unavoidable byproducts.
Give me an example of that, because the mechanics of this are fascinating.
Think about a person who is currently occupying a state of profound financial lack and insecurity. From that state, what thoughts are natural?
Thoughts of fear, thoughts about bills, anxiety about the future, jealousy of others.
Exactly. Those thoughts aren't mistakes. They are the perfect natural expression of the state of lack.
They are the exhaust of the engine of lack.
Precisely. Now, imagine that same person wins the lottery. Their state of consciousness shifts almost instantly to one of immense wealth and security. They don't have to wake up and write, "I am wealthy," in a journal 50 times to force their brain to believe it.
It is simply natural for them to think about what they will buy, where they will travel, and how secure they feel.
The thoughts changed effortlessly because the state changed. You shouldn't be working to have better thoughts through sheer willpower. You should be recognizing the underlying state where those thoughts are born.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the text then provides a direct, incredibly powerful quote from Neville Goddard himself to summarize this dynamic between our internal state and the external reality we experience.
One of his best quotes.
Goddard says, "The world does not respond to you. The world reflects the state of consciousness you occupy."
The contrast between those two words, respond and reflect, is the crux of the entire philosophy. It is a distinction we need to analyze deeply because it unravels so much of our cultural conditioning.
Let's do it. Because on the surface, those words seem somewhat synonymous. But as the author notes, it is a subtle distinction. And yet it changes everything. Let's talk about responding.
When we say the world responds to us, we are implying a transactional relationship. We are implying that the world or the universe or reality is a separate external entity sitting out there somewhere.
It's watching us.
It's judging our actions, evaluating our worthiness, looking at our karma, and then deciding how to react. It implies a time delay.
You do a good deed, the world thinks about it, and then the world gives you a positive response based on your performance.
Exactly. This model maintains the illusion of separation between you and reality.
Yes. Responding feels like you are submitting an application to the universe. You send in your resume of good actions and positive thoughts, and you wait around hoping for an approval letter in the mail.
And if bad things happen?
You think the universe is punishing me. I must have done something wrong. The universe is responding poorly to my actions.
But reflecting that is a completely different mechanism altogether.
Think about the nature of a mirror. A mirror doesn't judge you. A mirror doesn't evaluate your moral character before deciding what image to show.
A mirror doesn't delay its output.
No. A mirror simply, neutrally, impartially, and instantaneously shows you exactly what is standing in front of it. It has no agenda.
Right. If you stand in front of a mirror with a frown on your face, you don't try to reach out and pull the corners of the mirror's mouth up into a smile.
That would be insane.
You know that if you want the mirror to smile, you have to smile. If the world reflects the state of consciousness you occupy, it means there is no judgment, no delay, and no separation.
The physical world is just a giant, incredibly complex, neutral mirror showing you your current state.
It isn't punishing you or rewarding you. It is just showing you who you are being right now.
And the text spells out the profound implication of this realization. It says, from this point on, you are no longer working to have better thoughts. Instead, you are recognizing the state of consciousness you were in when those thoughts were born.
You stop trying to manipulate the mirror.
You stop arguing with the reflection. You start paying attention to who is standing in front of it.
And just when you think you have a solid handle on that concept, the author drops another massive reality check. It addresses this very pervasive myth in modern self-improvement, and manifestation circles the idea that you have an on and off switch for creating your reality.
Oh, I needed to hear this part.
The notes say, notice this very slowly. You do not have to manifest for something to be happening in your life. Experience does not pause. Reality does not wait for you.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how people consume this kind of material, it completely dismantles the idea that manifestation or reality creation is a part-time hobby or a scheduled activity.
Many people treat these concepts as something they do for 20 minutes in the morning.
They wake up, sit on their meditation cushion, they visualize their goals, they do their manifestation work, and then they get up, brush their teeth, and assume they are off the clock.
I am so guilty of this.
We all are. I think, okay, I did my 15 minutes of manifesting an abundant day. Now I'm just going to go to the grocery store, and then someone cuts me off in traffic, or the checkout line is too long, and I get furious and stressed out.
And you view that stress as something happening to you separate from your morning routine.
Exactly. But the source is explicitly telling us that the projector never, ever turns off. The film is always rolling.
It states, "This means you are not creating only sometimes. Your life is always unfolding from a state of consciousness."
Always. 24/7. Whether you were actively meditating with incense burning or whether you were sitting in gridlock traffic screaming at the steering wheel, reality is unpausing, constantly unfolding from whatever state you are currently holding in that exact second.
And this leads to what the text identifies as the only question that actually matters. It states, if this is true, then the question was never whether you can manifest. The question is, are you aware of the state of consciousness from which everything is currently unfolding?
It moves the listener completely away from the mechanics of how to do it.
And directs all focus to the pure awareness of what is currently happening. You are already an expert manifester. You are successfully manifesting your current reality perfectly. The question is, are you aware of the state that is producing it?
And just in case you, the listener, are suddenly spinning out thinking, oh God, I'm manifesting all my current problems, I need to go find this perfect magical state of consciousness to fix everything, the author immediately grounds you again.
They answer the question, where is the state?
They write, this state of consciousness is not somewhere else, not on a higher level, not in a future attainment. It is the state from which you are hearing these words right now.
It is right here.
It is the chair you are sitting in. It is the walk you are taking. It is always right here.
Notice how the author repeatedly uses physical grounding to prevent the reader from escaping into abstract, anxious thought loops. Right after stating that the state is happening right now, the text instructs, bring your attention back to your body once more. Do you notice how your body responds when you are not trying to change anything? When you simply recognize, this is a state of consciousness.
So what does this all mean for us in real, practical, messy daily terms? Because I know exactly what is happening in the listener's head right now because it is exactly what happened in mine.
The resistance kicks in.
The natural reaction to all of this talk about radical acceptance, neutral observation, and not trying to fix the mirror is a very loud, very panicky, protesting voice in your head shouting, but I want to change. I don't want to just neutrally observe my terrible posture or my stressful job or my empty bank account. I want to fix it.
If I don't desire change, won't I just stagnate and be miserable forever?
Exactly. And amazingly, the text anticipates this exact pushback.
It does. And this is where the philosophy deepens significantly. It acknowledges that human reaction directly and with compassion. It says, many people say at this point, but I want to change. And that is perfectly fine.
But then
it introduces what might be the most mind-bending, counterintuitive concept in the entire excerpt. I like to call it the meta trap.
Oh, the twist here is so good. If you are half listening right now, tune back in, because this is the trap that catches almost everyone trying to improve their lives.
The author points out that even the desire to change does not exist in a vacuum. It states, but notice, the desire to change also arises from a state of consciousness, from a state that has not yet recognized itself as the source.
Let's unpack the depth of the mechanics there, because it is a closed loop.
Please do, because my initial thought was, of course I desire change. That's how progress happens. How is the desire to change a trap?
Let's walk through a hypothetical scenario. Let's say you hate your job, and you are desperately trying to manifest or find a new one. You are filled with a burning desire to change your career. When you intensely desire to change your current reality, what state of consciousness are you inherently occupying?
You are occupying a state characterized by lack, dissatisfaction, desperation, or needing something to be different, to be happy.
You are operating from the core belief that you are trapped by your current circumstances and that you must exert massive effort to escape them.
Right. I feel stuck, so I want out.
Exactly. But remember, the law of the mirror we just established in the world merely reflects your current state of consciousness. So if you are operating from a state of needing change and feeling stuck, what must the mirror reflect back to you?
It will simply reflect back more situations, more obstacles, and more feelings of needing change.
It reflects your desperation back to you as more reasons to be desperate. It perpetuates the exact reality you are trying to escape. The intense, anxious effort to change is the state that creates the feeling of being stuck.
It's a snake eating its own tail.
Wow. Trying to change reality from a state of lacking only perpetuates the state of lacking. It is a total meta trap. You are vibrating at the frequency of, I don't have this, and reality says, okay, here is more of you not having this.
So how do you possibly get out of it? If you can't try to change, how does change ever happen?
The text gives the answer, and it is entirely about dissolving a misunderstanding. It states, when a state of consciousness recognizes itself, your experience does not change because you did something correctly. It changes because the misunderstanding about where everything originates dissolves.
That sentence is the key to true freedom within this entire framework. Read it closely. Your experience does not change because you did something correctly.
You do not get a gold star from the universe for performing the correct manifestation technique.
Reality doesn't suddenly reward you with a new job because you finally sat with perfect posture, or visualized for 30 days straight, or managed to have 0 negative thoughts for a week. The change in your external reality is not a reward for good behavior or hard work.
So why does it change?
The change happens simply because the illusion evaporates. The misunderstanding, the deeply held, exhausting belief that you are a victim of physical cause and effect, that you are at the mercy of the screen, dissolves.
When you truly recognize, not just intellectually but experientially, that you are the projector, the frantic need to scrub the movie screen naturally disappears.
You stop fighting the mirror.
And in that disappearance of effort, in that surrender of the struggle, your state naturally shifts to one of peace and observation. And when the state shifts, the reflection in the mirror has no choice but to automatically change to match it.
The freedom in that realization is staggering. It's like putting down a 100-pound backpack you didn't know you were wearing.
But I have to play devil's advocate here one more time, because it begs a very practical, real-world question.
Let's hear it.
If effort and action aren't the cause of my reality, do I just throw all my habits, all my routines, all my actual skills out the window? Do I just sit on the couch, stare at the wall in a state of wealth, and wait for a bag of money to fall through the ceiling? Because that sounds like a recipe for total passivity and delusion.
It's the most common critique of this philosophy, but the text is very clear that we do not abandon action. This isn't about nihilism, and it isn't about sitting on a couch waiting for magic.
It is about understanding the proper place and sequence for action.
The source explains, this is the point where techniques do not disappear. They simply fall into their proper place. They are no longer causes, but consequences.
No longer causes, but consequences. That phrasing is so elegant, it completely reorders the sequence of creation.
Let's break down what that looks like in practice. It means that taking action, whether that is going to the gym, sending out resumes, writing a book, or having a difficult conversation with your partner, isn't the cause of your new reality.
The action is actually the consequence of the new state you have already shifted into.
Give me an example of the difference.
Let's look at health. The action-first paradigm says I feel out of shape and unhealthy. That's the state of lack. Therefore, I must force myself to go for a run every morning at 5 a.m., even though I hate it, so that eventually I will become healthy and feel good.
Action is cause. It requires massive willpower and usually leads to burnout.
I've lived that exact cycle dozens of times.
Now look at the state-first paradigm. You do the internal work to recognize and occupy the state of someone who is vibrant, energetic, and healthy. You feel that state as a present reality.
From that state of vibrant health, what is the natural consequence? What does a healthy person naturally do?
They move their body. So the urge to go for a run arises organically. It feels completely natural, even enjoyable. You aren't forcing the run to become healthy. You are running because the state you occupy naturally produces that action.
The action is the joyous exhaust of the state.
That makes so much sense. You aren't avoiding action. You are just removing the desperate friction from it.
And the author emphasizes that this realization isn't some mystical, unattainable enlightenment reserved for monks on a mountain.
They write, the source state of consciousness is not a special experience, not a spiritual high, not a better version of you.
It is simply the quiet recognition of this fundamental truth. Reality is not happening inside you, it is happening from you.
Happening from you. That right there is the simple, quiet recognition that flips the entire universe inside out. You are not a container that reality is being poured into.
You are the aperture through which reality is projecting outward.
And what I find so compelling to wrap this up is that the text claims there is actual, tangible, physical proof. When this shift in understanding truly lands, it's not just an intellectual idea that you nod along with. Your body literally reacts to the truth of it.
The author describes what happens when this source state stabilizes. The effort softens, posture opens, breath deepens, not because you are making it happen, but because the state of consciousness has shifted.
It brings us full circle back to the very beginning, back to the body as the dashboard. When you finally stop fighting the illusion of action-based reality, when that deep misunderstanding dissolves. The existential tension we all carry, the tension of trying to control the uncontrollable, fundamentally releases.
Your posture opens not because you consciously commanded your shoulders to pull back, but because the invisible weight of trying to force reality to bend to your will has been lifted off your back.
The state shifts to one of effortless unfolding, and the body, the ever-faithful dashboard, instantly reflects that newly found spaciousness.
And as we near the end of these notes, the author leaves a very clear marker of what this means for you, the listener, moving forward. They note the specific purpose of the channel this text came from, stating this channel is not about how to achieve things. It is about how to recognize again and again the state of consciousness from which things naturally fall into place.
It is a practice of recognition, not a practice of achievement.
And then they write something quite profound. If what you just heard did not feel like information, but like a shift in state, then you're exactly where you need to be. And from here, there is no going back, only a crossing from one state of consciousness into another.
Crossing that threshold means you can never entirely unsee the projector. Even when you get caught up in the movie, which you will always know deep down that the screen isn't where the power lies.
It is an irreversible shift in perspective. Once you truly comprehend on a somatic level that the state precedes the reality, the old models of relentless, grinding physical effort simply lose their grip on your psyche.
You can't unknow it.
What a profound journey through a relatively short piece of text. We have totally flipped the script on self-improvement today. We've gone from being exhausted actors trying to force the plot forward on the stage to recognizing ourselves as the projector of the film itself.
We've learned that the body is just a dashboard, an imprint of our state.
We've seen that thoughts are just expressions, not the source.
And most importantly, we've realized that reality doesn't respond to our frantic actions. It perfectly, neutrally, and continuously reflects our inner state.
And this exploration is really only the beginning. The excerpt actually concludes with a teaser for what is to come, pointing toward a deeper dive into the actual mechanics of the mind.
It says, in the next video, we will explore the fundamental misunderstanding that causes so many people to struggle, why your thoughts do not create, and which state of consciousness actually does.
I cannot wait to dig into that material. The idea that thoughts don't create is going to rattle a lot of cages, especially in the manifestation community. But based on everything we've unpacked today about thoughts being the exhaust rather than the engine, it makes perfect, logical sense within this framework.
This raises an important question, though, for the listener to take with them into their actual, messy, day-to-day life starting right now. We have talked a lot about theory, observation, the mirror of reality, and the projector. But how do we test this? How do we move this from an interesting discussion into lived experience?
Give it to us. What is the challenge for the listener?
If reality is indeed happening from you and your physical sensations are purely imprints, neutral dashboard indicators of your state, what happens if you commit to a radical experiment for the next 24 hours?
Okay, 24 hours.
What if, for one full day, you treat every single moment of friction, every moment of frustration, every tightening of your chest in traffic, every surge of anxiety over an email from your boss, every urge to fix your posture? What if you treat it not as a problem you need to immediately solve, fix, or run away from, but purely as neutral information about your current state?
So just observing the check engine light without yelling at the dashboard and without immediately pulling the car over to rip the engine apart.
Exactly. When the anxiety hits, just notice, this is the state of anxiety. The imprint is a tight chest. Do not try to breathe it away. Do not try to affirm it away.
Could the mere act of neutrally observing the imprint without the frantic, meta-trap desire to change it be the exact mechanism that dissolves the misunderstanding and shifts your state entirely?
That is what I encourage you to explore today. Test the mirror.
What a perfect final thought to mull over. Try it out. Watch the dashboard, don't fight the screen, and see what happens when you just recognize the state you are in. Thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive, and until next time, keep learning, keep observing, and keep recognizing the true source of your unfolding reality.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, please consider subscribing to the channel. For more in-depth and advanced content, you're welcome to join us on Patreon. We'll be back next week with the continuation of this topic.